Today we're going to be talking about how to get contracts signed and signed quickly. These are those scenarios where the seller might say, well, let me think about it, or let me talk to my significant other, or maybe even I've got another investor coming to take a look at the property. Let me get back to you after that appointment. It all starts with embracing being the buyer. And if you're following the closers formula, leveraging the answer that they originally gave you to the first question that we asked, which is, are you still looking to sell that property? Now, what I mean by embrace being the buyer is, imagine any other scenario in your life where you go to purchase an item. Now, imagine when you go to purchase that item and the seller tells you, let me think about it. That very rarely happens. If you walk into a car dealership and you were to come to an agreement on a price and the terms and everything, is the car salesman then going to tell you, let me think about it? No. If you walk into a store to purchase an item, there's an asking price, and you pick that item up, is the cashier then going to tell you, let me think about it, or let me talk to my manager? No. So in this scenario, if you're truly embracing being the buyer, and you can come to those agreements on price and all the other terms, this is where you leverage that, and you do not need to be afraid to walk away from that deal. Now, see, a lot of wholesalers, especially when they're newer and maybe they're struggling to get cash in the bank or get that first deal across the finish line, they're very afraid of walking away from a potential deal. But see, what you're actually doing is you're not leveraging the greatest asset that you have, which is you are the buyer in this transaction. And realistically, they need you more than you need that deal. That's what makes them a truly motivated seller. This is why I tell everybody when you're talking to a seller, the two most important things that you need to identify is the price and the seller's motivation. If you can do that, then at that point in time, you know exactly how to navigate the rest of the conversation, and you can close these types of transactions with ease because you're not going to be afraid to walk away from it. Now, in these scenarios where the seller is giving you pushback and wants to take time to think about your offer, if you have not uncovered the layers of motivation, this is where the seller can out-leverage you in the conversation. You don't understand everything that's going on in their situation, or maybe you lowballed them, which, by the way, I adamantly disagree with, and I don't think you should be lowballing any seller whatsoever, because you need to understand their situation, and you should be educating them on how we come up with our numbers and our offer. And then at this scenario where we need to get the contract signed, but they're wanting to think about it or shop our offer or talk to someone else, that means they have already verbally agreed to that price, and we're sending them a contract. Now, how do you get that signed? Now, depending upon how you kind of position yourself in the conversation, if you're an actual end buyer, my favorite phrase to use is, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I do want to tell you that offer that I just made you stands right now, but I do have limited funds available. I don't have unlimited funds. So if you call me back 2 days from now and another seller says yes to my offer, then those funds might not be available anymore for you. So that offer does have an expiration date. So let me ask you, what is it that I don't understand about the conversation that we had that you need to explore? Is there something that you're concerned about? Do you have any questions that I can answer? Because I would like to make an agreement today, but if it's 2-3 days, maybe even longer, I don't know if I'm still going to be in the position to buy your house. Now, that is an extremely powerful statement to make, and it applies urgency to the seller to make a decision. Now, say you position yourself as a wholesaler, what you can say is, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I have to say is, I do know that my end buyers today are in a position to buy another property. That being said, if I were to go get another property under contract and get a seller to agree to it and they buy that property from me today, I don't know that they're going to be in a position to buy another property after that. I am in a position to perform for you today, but the longer that you wait and elongate this process, I do not know that I'm going to be available. What hopefully happens is that it opens up the fear or the unknown that the seller has about this transaction. Rarely does it come down to the fact that they're wanting more money. It has something to do with they just don't quite understand the process and they're not wanting to make a rash decision. Now, each and every one of us will eventually talk to an elderly seller that just will not make a decision on the spot the same day that they have the initial conversation. That happens to all of us. That being said, if you have that conversation and you understand that, you do not want to try to force someone into doing something that they stand by. It's the way that they do business. We don't want to be pushy salesmen, so ask up front. Is there anything that you need me to answer while we're on the phone? And how long do you need? And then preface that by saying the line, depending upon how you position yourself and what your role is in the transaction. Money is a limited resource. Now, is this always the case? Some of us could have a hard money lender that funds the vast majority of the transaction, but gap funding could be an issue. Bandwidth of contractors and the amount of properties that we can take on at one time could be the issue. And this happens with our end buyers at times. So even if you're a wholesaler, you can still leverage the fact that you are going to continue doing your job. You're going to call more sellers and you are going to get properties under contract. This urgency allows the seller to understand that they have to take this serious. And if they're truly motivated, they will then understand how important it is for them to make a decision and make a decision quickly. What you're really trying to accomplish with these lines is to get the seller to transition their thought process from I'll get back to you to I might miss out on this opportunity on selling this property that I need to sell. From them saying they need me to I need them, to let me shop this offer, to let me secure this before it's gone. Really prioritizing our role and making sure that they understand that we're serious about doing the deal and doing the deal right then and there. Now, here's the thing. If you use these lines, you have to be willing to stick with it. And here's what I mean by that. If you tell a seller that you'll give them 24 hours or they have a limited amount of time to make a decision, you can't continue following up with them every single day, 3 times a day saying, hey, are you still interested? You thinking about signing that contract? Even though you want to and you probably need to, internally that's what you feel, you're deleveraging your position as the buyer. This is why I believe it's so important to get each and every seller on the phone and have a direct conversation about the importance of us coming to an agreement or realizing that we're not going to come to an agreement on that initial phone call. One of the least, or my personal least favorite statuses on our CRM is follow-up. Now, I'm not talking about the ones where it's they didn't answer and we need to get a hold of them. I'm talking about we got the seller on the phone, and for whatever reason, whether it was the seller's position or we just couldn't come to an agreement on numbers, we say we need to follow up with them. That means whoever was the closer didn't do a good enough job of coming to an agreement or a disagreement. And now we're in this limbo land where we are constantly deleveraging our position as the buyer by following up and showing how interested we are in getting that property under contract. We become the motivated buyer, and they're no longer the motivated seller that needs us more than we need them, right? That's where we want to try to avoid at all costs. So if you tell a seller, hey, I understand your situation, I'm going to give you a certain amount of time, follow up with them at that point in time. Do not be afraid to cancel the contract when it expires. Do not be afraid to no longer follow up with them. The power that gives you is that those sellers will chase after you if they truly need you more than we need them. Now, this goes against the grain as far as what is taught throughout our industry, right? The gold is in the follow up. Well, it is to a certain degree. But when we have that opportunity, that is a moment of truth. And I tell you guys, embrace those moments. Embrace being that buyer. Put the hammer down and say, this is when I need a decision. Because when I look at my CRM and I see all of the leads that exist there, I want to look at each and every one of them and know that is a money-making opportunity. And personally, for me, when I look at long-term follow-ups where we've already had the moment of truth conversation, do you want to sell? How much do you want for it? Tell me what you got going on. We identify their motivation and we've come to an agreement on price, yet we weren't able to close the deal. That to me is no longer a money-making opportunity. It means we failed. We failed at our job to close the deal when we needed to. Unless there was just some reason as to why the seller could not sign at that point in time. Maybe it was because they had to talk to an attorney or their siblings because it's an inherited property, something along those lines, those are acceptable. But if it's just literally that you're going to get shopped around, you failed as a closer. And that's where you should insert these lines and embrace being the buyer and put the pressure back on the seller to either come to an agreement or come to a disagreement and move on with our lives. So let me know in the comments, have you used this line before? Let me know if it worked. Show me some love, like today's video. We'll see you guys tomorrow.